Shapiro wrote a novel.
And there he is.
Hey, it's United in Green. This is Mike coming back to you after a couple week or a single week absence. Uh, and guess what? We have the OG crew back together. And just in time, our guy Tyler the Creator shows up. How you doing, Tyler?
At the buzzer. I'm well. Thank you for asking.
Nice. How's your week been, man?
It's been busy, in a good
Busy,
way.
good.
And if you are a parent of children, you know that you're hitting the May sports vortex where you say goodbye to your nights and weekends for the next 4 weeks. But yeah, had some good practices, some good games, some sunny days, some rainy days, all the things.
I hear you, man. Lucas had to train last night in the rain, and
Oof.
we took great advantage at my house of our one day off this week and did some grilling today. So it was a nice afternoon for me.
Delicious.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have with us Will returning to the podcast. How you doing, Will?
Good. Yourself?
I'm not bad, man. Today's like I said, today's been a great day. Hard day at work, of course, but like
Mm.
I really can't complain about this weather. I mean, if we're gonna get that spring rain, might as well, get a couple of nice sunny days in there to kind of temper that. So, and then finally, lastly, but certainly not, the leastly, we have our returning champion, as always, Tyson. How you doing, man?
I am doing good. I have been reflecting on the David Moyes era at West Ham. Um, you know, Praise be unto him for bringing the Hammers their first titles in anything since what, like the early 80s. But I'm trying not to be cynical about the appointment of Julian Lopetegui, who has a really big CV in terms of who he's managed, but the football is kind of cynical. It's not great. It's just going to be a fancier Moyes 2.0. I'm not
I mean,
enthused.
yeah. If you watched any of Wolves in the recent in the past years or year, I should say, there you go. So yeah, well, we can get our Premier League stuff out of the way with that, I guess, because we know where my team lands. Um, but uh, the other two of you have Champions League guaranteed, so that's good for you. Um, so basically, over the past week, we've had some big news going on with our favorite local club, Vermont Green FC. Um, and we had the introduction of the women's team. Now, this is something that I think we really wanted as supporters, as a supporters group, the base supporters group, the Green Mountain Boys. I think this is something we've kind of been clamoring for, and I think this is an amazing development for the club. We are playing just one single exhibition match this year to kind of dip our toe in the water. And to see kind of where we can go from there. And it seems like we're going to just keep playing friendlies, exhibition friendlies until we can settle in on a system and settle in, with coaches and such. But Tyler, why don't you tell us a little bit about the women's team and what we're going to expect here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, this is something that we as a supporters group have been excited about and asking about for, I think, probably since year one. Um, and it's just, you know, the women's soccer scene in the US is just like fantastic and growing at such a uh, super impressive rate, that it seems foolish for any club with long-term interests and success to not be involved. And that's just like the sort of like cynical capitalist view of it. It's also just like an awesome thing to every club should have a men's team and a women's team. It seems like that should be like the basic standard offering. But I'm over the moon excited about the exhibition matches. I feel like it'll just those are gonna sell out and go off like nothing else. And then just have those being sort of the foundation for whatever whenever we get a a full season women's team. Like it's just like yeah, I mean I think I'm curious about the logistics of what it would mean to have a full second team as far as like how the club is run and how things are handled, and also just where we fit in terms of like leagues and divisions. Like the closest team to us, right? The closest club that has a team to us right now is AC Connecticut, and they're part of the Metropolitan Division for USLW. And everybody else plays down in like New York and like that area. So I wonder if the plan is to try to sort of like push other New England USL teams to start fielding women's teams and see if we can grow in that capacity. But yeah, overall, just super excited about this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think this is a really good way to kind of to showcase the women's game in our area. I mean, we've had Vermont Fusion in the past few years. I just had a ladybug land on my arm. That's weird.
It's good luck.
It is good luck. Um, we've had the Vermont Fusion in the past few years. I know they're not going to compete in the same league this coming year. Um, but they were always they have in the past been pretty successful as a club. They've had some pretty exciting players come through. And I know that this team is um, we know of what, five players so far that have been named. One of them from my hometown of Pittsford, Vermont. Um, I'm just kind of curious to see where we're going to go with this. The team is so far that the team that's been named is UVM players. So like this is going to be a great way to showcase a lot of the UVM talent and the women's team at UVM, which has been coming along as well as the men's team. Will, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a good start. I think it's a show of intention, really. We don't, know where this is going, but the fact is that we've taken concrete steps to, figure out what the next step is and putting together this exhibition. I mean, it's a huge day, and I think that, certainly, our group of people is going to show up and give the same kind of support that we do for every other home game that we do. So I think it's a really good opportunity for us as fans to show that there's a hunger and a market for this in a place like Vermont. I also think it's really exciting that they've put together an advisory board, to, see where to go next with this. And, frankly, having the head of the UVM women's soccer program, and Sam Mewis, U.S. national team star, to lead that. I think it's really exciting. So, like Tyler said, I don't know where this is gonna go, and it's not my job, but I'm gonna root for it every step of the way. So it's a super exciting development and first step to establishing more women's game in Vermont.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You know, I think looking at our club that my son and my family belong to, and some of the other clubs, I know that like in this area, the the women's game in the youth ranks is actually growing. Like at huge numbers, especially at Far Post. I see, and Far Post, I think, has a big focus on a lot of the girls and the women's teams, and I think that and they've had the women's academy, and they've done some exhibitions with the U18s there, in the past few years. So I think this is a great way to get a lot of these um, young women in Vermont, and not just UVM, but in Vermont, involved in this kind of stuff. And for me, my daughter is a huge supporter of Vermont Green. She's not an athlete per se in the world of soccer. She's a volleyball player, but she heard about this and was like over the moon about it. Like This is fantastic for our community, and I'm excited to see what we can do with this. Tyson, what are your thoughts, man?
I mean, like Tyler said, and everybody said, there's obviously a huge appetite for soccer of all kinds in Vermont, and especially since the Fusion are putting together a team to play this year, there's a huge black hole in terms of, higher level women's soccer in all of Vermont. This is a great time for the Green to put out a team. I have to imagine that um, this exhibition game is going to be really well attended. And honestly, I think that um, depending on how well attended it is, I would not be surprised at all for there to be another game added on. We saw a couple of kind of random friendlies added to the men's schedule last year. So, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the opportunity presents itself for there to be a second friendly for the women added on. And probably next year, I am hoping for at least two more women's games. Um, and I do seriously think that this is something that could be uh, obviously great for the state, great for the green. There's nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler brought up the logistical kind of piece of this, which knowing and being having been to a bunch of tournaments and stuff, I know that Boston Bolts, I know that Seagrass, and and I think Albany Rush all have in their youth programs have women's teams. So I don't see any reason why we can't be kind of the trailblazers here in Vermont to growing a USL2 um, type conference in this Northeast or New England area, the way we have with the men. And this is an excellent opportunity to not just grow the sport in the community or grow the women's team in the community, but it's a great way to grow soccer as a whole in New England. And I think that's really, really super important.
It's just
Especially,
like from bottom to top, it's just a great move for any club. I mean, I was looking up some numbers before this, like soccer is the most popular youth sport for girls in the US right now. Something like it's like 35% of girls 7 to 11 play soccer and 27% of girls 11 to 13 play soccer. That's like amazing. That's millions. I'm not going to do math on the spot, but I'm assuming it's between hundreds and millions of girls in that general range. And like there's just interest and demand, and I think the U.S. women's national team has driven a lot of that. I think the ability to watch uh pro pro women's teams has also helped. Like the NWSL viewership is up like 21% this season. Their attendance is up 48%. Like there's genuine continued interest. It's not just every 4 years for the World Cup. I think those are sort of like our little moments of like getting a boost for the game, but like from the grassroots level in terms of like youth sports all the way through like the pro teams and leagues, like there's just an amazing trajectory here, and it's really exciting to see Vermont Green be part of it.
yeah, absolutely. And just I think that it would be kind of remiss of me to not mention the names of the young women who have already been announced um, as part of this team. Um, so we have named UVM players: Jill Brody, Lainey Ross, Bailey Ayer, Maddie Cronin, Olivia White, um, who is the native of my hometown, Pittsford, Vermont. They're going to be playing against FC Laval from League on Quebec. It's and the UVM's women's soccer coach, I think, is going to be kind of the head coach for this team, at least in the start. That's Christy Huizenga. So I mean, this is really exciting news. I think we're all pretty pumped for it, and in the best thing we can do, and the best thing any of our listeners can do, is go out there and preach and get the word about get the word out there about this, because there's still folks in our community that don't know about the men's team, let alone the women's team, the women's game. So and like Tyler said, like, this is a huge opportunity to grow the game in our area. So very excited about that. So moving on from that, we do have some news with the solidified schedule for the men's team, which begins here in 9 days, right? And the 18th. We're going to be down in Boston, and we're going to be playing. It's Boston Bolt. Is Boston Bolts the first one this year? It's been
Boston
Boston
City.
Oh, so it was Boston Bolts last year, Boston City this year.
I think it's the
Okay.
19th, just for.
Oh, it is the 19th.
I think it
I
may have
thought
been
it was
moved.
the 18th.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it may have been the 18th, but moved to the 19th just for.
Right. So it's a Sunday. It's a Sunday evening. But let's talk about this schedule, like, because I'm curious to see how it plays out, and how you know this league has enough teams to play each other twice, but a couple times a year you have single games that you play. Like AC Connecticut's been our single game that we play the past couple of years. So I mean, how do you guys think? Like, I'm going to go to Will with this, because Will didn't get to talk a lot the last question, so we'll let him start. He says, don't worry about it. But
Don't worry about it.
let's talk about how this is gonna shape up, because the way that the schedule is built, and it looks to me, it is going to come down. I think it's been purposely built, honestly, to come down to possibly that last weekend of football.
Yeah, so I think in general, when you look at the USL2 and, as a whole, and then specifically our division, I think there's a lot of pressure on us this season to, perform and take that step up. So, this season, the USL2 has released power rankings, top 15. We were ranked 7th in the entirety of the USL2. But Western Mass Pioneers were ranked 8th, and then C Glass, club I'm not familiar with, was ranked 13th in the top 15. And from what I can tell, we have one of the tightest divisions out there, because the 3 teams are really competing for the top. And so when you look at this schedule, I really think that it's a short season, so all of these games really are must win, but you got to be picking up points from these teams that are not, the top 3. So, when we go to places like Boston City, when we go to places like BlackRock and Pathfinder, we got to be taking maximum points. And so I really do think that, these first 4 games of the season, which are Boston City, BlackRock, Pathfinder, and then BlackRock again, 2 away games, 2 home games, I really do think we have to set precedent and take maximum points from those opportunities. Because after that, we sort of move into, a set of tighter games. So we have AC Connecticut, which I think they've given us trouble once or twice in the past. They're not exactly, we play them once, so we're not super familiar with them. But then we have Albany Rush, Seacoast, and Western Mass in those next 4 games. And having Seacoast and Western Mass back to back is a tough matchup. And it's within the span of 4 days. And so, really, I think the season can be made there, because last season, as good as we were, the fact is, we didn't take those games, at max points, and that cost us a spot in the playoffs. So I really think that, if we're going to press on, if we're going to make it to playoffs this year, we really have to look at every game as an opportunity to win. And I think it's set up, well. We have a lot of time to get set and organized for Seacoast on June 11th. We have 6 games and a friendly, so we should be able to find some cohesion on the pitch before our first real test. So, I think the schedule is set up well for us. It's a good mix of away games, good mix of home games, and allows us to find some cohesion with a new group of guys coming in. before we start taking on, Seacoast and Western Mass in early June, which I think will be one of the two big points of the season. Because again, at the end of the season, we have those two teams again. So, really, it's about taking maximum points, finding cohesion, being ready to go for those two big games.
Those max points are going to be a huge issue too, because we play each of those teams, Seafoam and Western Mass. We play them twice each. They only play each other one time. That seems to me to be where we really need to pick up points. We went to Rye, New Hampshire last year, picked up 3 points there, in a wonderful game that we actually got to hear broadcast on the radio or over live air, which was kind of cool. But this year, we can't drop points at home. We can certainly not drop points to Seafoam, and we really need to go to Lusitano on that last week of the season and pick up the points, because last year we had the opportunity to hold their feet to the fire and came away with a 1-0 loss at their spot, and that was really tough to watch that game. Tyson, what do you think about the schedule? I mean, we all have different thoughts and feelings on it, but I mean, what is your idea?
I mean, you stole my favorite point, my favorite talking point about the schedule, about the fact that Space Ghost and Western Mass only play each other once, therefore letting them kind of beat up on, the Boston City, Boston Bolts of our division, who are, kind of unfortunately for them, in the couple of seasons that we've been a part of the league, they've been pretty much bottom feeders. So we really, unfortunately, we keep on harping about it on this show, but these games against Sea Glass and Western Mass are really big and really important. That last game in Ludlow against Western Mass, I know I keep on harping about it on the Green Mountain Boys Slack, but we need to get a crew together to go down to Lusitano. Um, I'm really fired up about it because I wasn't able to make that trip last year. And I think that is going to be a really, really important away game. The games, like you said, Mike, the games against AC Connecticut, I think we actually played them twice this year, after only playing them once the past 2 seasons. They can be feisty.
They
Um,
jumped on us. They jumped on us pretty early last year too. So
yeah,
before we took it to them, but
they had a wonder strike from like 30 yards out, I believe. That was like a beautiful goal.
mhm.
Before, yes, we kind of turned it on and kicked the tar out of them. I think it wound up being like 6-2 in total for that game. But I was doing a kind of deep dive on Protagonist, and that Pathfinder last year finished fourth.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The year
that's
in the year before, they were ninth.
Mhm.
They've been sneakily making some pretty solid progress the last couple of years, and I don't believe, um I don't have last year's schedule up in front of me, but I think that we either we beat them once, and I think we tied them once. I think that they were one of the draws that we had that kind of sunk our playoff bid last year.
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I'm not looking at this. I'm trying to find it, but I mean, one way or another, we can't drop points to these teams that we should be beating. I think with our improved roster this year, and taking nothing away from the 2 previous years, obviously, um, we have some returning for their third seasons, and we have, you know, a lot of new players. Which Dan and I will discuss a little more on the other pod, but it's I think that Vermont has a chance to do something really special this year, um, that we've kind of been striving for, and I think the power rankings being what they are in the preseason, and you can't let that go to our heads as fans. I mean, especially not the players who are arriving this weekend, right, to start training. So, um, Tyler, and any thoughts on the schedule? I mean, because obviously, like I said, it seems to be purpose built, and the fixtures are coming in spots where they should be coming, except for the one against Seaglass, which seems like I think you said in the Slack, has always been like, why is it always on a Tuesday?
Yeah, yeah, it's you can only we can only imagine what goes into like the logistics of planning a USL2 like season schedule. Not I'm sure it's nothing but chaos. That's my guess. Yeah, I mean, I think every year it's going to come down to our games against Western Mass and Space Coast to Coast, and those are going to be the big games. I think it's great that a club like Pathfinder is starting to sort of enter the conversation in a significant way, and I think it's good for the league to have as many horses in the race as possible. I think, for any league, you don't want it to be one team dominating, even in three, I think is a much healthier balance out of the league. But like the more teams that are actually competitive in every game, the more exciting the league is, and the better the quality. So, yeah, I think it's gonna be the usual suspects in terms of matches that we should be worried about, focused on, excited about. And then I think the sort of non-schedule but still significant change to this season is where there's that third playoff spot again this year, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that that shouldn't temper our expectations for for this season, because like we've all been saying, this does seem like if there's ever a year for Vermont Green to win the division and in a big way, it'd be this year. But that being said, I think we should expect to be in the playoffs come into the season one way or another. So yeah, I'm excited for the games we talked about. I'm excited to try to get to at least one or two away days, just because it was such a great experience going to Western Mass last season, and I think folks who got to other away games had a really good time. It's just, I think it speaks to like the level of support that the club has, and just the level of interest that we have in seeing these kids play on a weekly basis. So.
As they say, we want to not just appear as we travel well, but to actually travel well, and show our support for our club. Obviously life gets in the way and that kind of stuff, but there's something to be said for bringing attendance up for any team that is in this league, and is whether they're thriving or whether they're struggling to stay afloat. But we always have to do whatever we can to help our league's visibility, and I think that we
Yeah.
have the opportunity to do that, especially in away days. So
And I think there's just like a general there's a general benefit to thinking about. I mean, obviously we want to be competitive in the league, and look out for for our own club above all. But at the end of the day, like, we're all in this together in terms of like the USL2 and the USL overall. Like, this is a league that we should want to see succeed and grow and get better in every capacity. So like, if we can spur on other clubs to improve the way they do anything, or the way supporters groups work, or God forbid that other clubs have like streaming options during free games for people who want to watch. These are crazy ideas. Don't hold me to them. But just
that's funny
like
that you say that.
but just like, like, if you can lead by example and show better ways of being supporters, better ways of being clubs, whatever it is, and it inspires other clubs to follow suit, or at least try, like, that's awesome. Like, I would love to have every club in our division and like on the same level of of support and graphic design and all these things. So I don't know.
Right, yeah. Getting onto that the subject the one thing you mentioned, which is the streams. I know we all met up um this past Saturday for the release of the brand new VT Green beer from Zero Gravity.
There it is.
It's a 5.7 India Pale Ale. It says Up the Green on it. They make gear for it, fully recycled material. I think what do they have? Sweatshirts right now that are pretty dope looking. They have the logo on there, and then it says Up the Green on it, and it's got the Vermont Green logo on the shoulder. Just looks clean, looks crisp, looks really nice. Just like the beer. The beer it's fantastic. For just like a plain old standard India Pale Ale. It's a really good beer. I really enjoyed it. But so we were there. We got to talk to a couple of the founders, and they had the question was posed about the streams, and I guess it was told to us that they're going to they have to I can't remember what the percentage was that we were told that they have to try to stream. Yeah. So I think it was somewhere. I don't know if you remember, Will. Do you?
There's some loose requirements that you have to make an effort to stream a certain percentage of your
It was like
games.
it was make an effort to just
Yeah.
it's which
I think we can make the conclusion that a fair few of these games away are not going to be streamed with any quality. So we should be prepared for that. I think that's just how it's going to be.
right. I mean, even Boston City has, some guy with an iPhone at the top of their stadium. Like, whether it doesn't have to be commentated or any of that. We just need in order for this league to grow and succeed, we really need to have streams and have the ability for people to watch, when they're away days or families even. I mean, I think it's ludicrous that we cannot provide a decent stream. Vermont Green has put effort in, they've put money into it to provide a great stream and a great experience for the home viewer. So I don't see why some of these other clubs that have been in existence for forever, I don't see any reason they can't do it.
It's not fair to the players either because they're not getting that scouting material. So the reason they're developing and growing, it doesn't increase their real. So the whole thing's frustrating. I mean, at least the league's trying to implement some sort of requirement, but I'm not super confident that we're going to see high quality streams from Seacoast. I mean, and that's the one that blows my mind. We're talking about a long standing program. That's one of the better teams in the league. And the fact that they have no stream for anybody is it's frustrating, but I expect it to continue, unfortunately.
Yeah, that sucks. So before we move on to our next subject, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping here. We are the United in Green podcast. We are Vermont Green's favorite podcast. I think we're the greatest, in fact, Vermont Green podcast out there. We are partnered with the Blazing Musket. Blazing Musket is a sports news organization, blog, if you will, website, and they have a lot of great writers on their staff. They provide soccer coverage, New England soccer coverage for the USL Championship, two teams in the USL Championship, Rhode Island FC and Hartford Athletic, as well as the New England Revolution and their MLS Next Pro team, the Revs 2, which are currently I think they're doing pretty well in their league, but they have an ex Vermont Green player on their team. So and Gevork Diarbin. So we look forward to see his progression. But yeah, we're partnered with them, and we're happy to be part of their family. So you can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms except Apple, which for some reason still won't accept us. And I've been trying this past 2 weeks to get us onto Apple. But if you need the RSS code, please just find us on Instagram and send us a DM, and I'll set you up with the RSS. Thanks. So moving on, we had some US Open Cup stuff that was actually really fun. Tyson, you want to break some stuff down for us, man?
Oh, sure, because I was that guy who was creepily sitting on the sofa next to my wife who was passed out in the dark, just watching Omaha almost take down Sporting Kansas City at like the 120th minute. Oh my God, it was so close, but so far. I mean, there were just some great games yesterday and also on Tuesday. I think, Tyler, you are also watching the Houston Detroit City game.
Yep.
Great, great game. 3-3 went to pens, which Detroit City won. Um,
Went to a lot of pens. The Detroit City goalie ended up winning the
yes.
winning the game for them, which was amazing. Yeah.
Let's see, what other fun highlights do we have? We had Oakland Roots almost taking San Jose to extra time. That was a kind of fun, nasty Bay Area derby. Um, that was a good one. I'm just scrolling through my phone here. Tampa Bay and Birmingham Legion
That was
with
a
a
crazy game.
6-4 barn burner in favor of Tampa Bay. That whole game was just like madness. The Legion were down 4-0 like early in the second half and then just blasted back and tied it up. And then they just
Starting in like the 80th minute, right?
yeah, it was nuts. Uh, and then the Rowdies came back and scored two in extra time. Um, then, like I said, I was really gunning for the Owls of Omaha to take down Sporting Kansas City. That did not come to fruition. And then also, uh, Louisville City took the Seattle Sounders to pens as well.
Yeah.
So,
And New Mexico United beat Real Salt Lake.
yes, they did.
And
Upset, baby.
the reigning champions got beat by Detroit City.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
It's
I mean,
yeah.
lots of big happenings in the US Open Cup. I mean, this is the stuff that they promise. You know, they promise to the fans, and this is why um and the MLS teams being taken to the limits or beyond is the reason that in my mind that they don't want to compete because it shows in my mind that there are other viable leagues out there. There are other viable players that maybe have been overlooked by the big quote unquote big MLS teams and the big money teams. The quality of soccer amongst all the leagues is the gap is closing, I think. It's just that sometimes money wins out. Most of the time money wins out, and this capitalism, baby. But I think that the US Open Cup really is a showcase for what we have here in this country, and how the sport is growing, and I just love it. It makes me excited, and I don't always get to see those matches because I'm dead tired at the end of the night or whatever. Dadding is as Tyler has said is not always the easiest thing to do, and you just want to kick up your feet and go to bed sometimes. But I do get to try and watch as much as I can. The craziness of the US Open Cup is what soccer is all about, and I just love it. Will, have you watched any of the US Open Cup? I know that you're a high powered attorney, so you know suit wearing and such just it gets in the way sometimes.
No, unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to watch any of it. I want to, but it just hasn't happened for me. But I
That
do appreciate that, it's a competitive tournament, and to see these bigger teams get pushed around, it's always a good thing to see. It's just a shame our boys aren't the ones out there doing it. But
right.
hey, if we get the chance next year, I'd be glad to see it.
We can always sit here and I'll gladly paint the MLS as the evil empire if we have to, but like even if they weren't the evil empire and they were just a benevolent you know organization, it wouldn't I don't think it would be any less exciting to see a top tier league team get beat by a quote unquote lower tier team. It's always fun. The FA Cup's fun in that way. The I don't care about Cup is always fun in that way. Um, I love watching. Everybody loves watching an underdog win, right?
Yes.
Well,
Howdy Cup.
except for New York City Football Club 2,
Mm,
which managed to go and beat a USL championship team, and as the uh, third division team that went the farthest in the competition, has won the Manchester City ownership group $25,000 because they're the farthest, they're the third level team that has gone the farthest. It's not going to be some, USL one team that could have used like 25 grand to go and like do some renovations on their stadium or maybe do some upgrades to their field or something like that. No, it's Sheikh Mansour wins an extra 25 grand that he could find in a couch cushion somewhere, which is a bit of a bummer.
It's
and
depressing.
they do get to use Rodri and Erling Holland, right? For that game.
Why not?
Why not? Why not? Why not? They can just
If they wanted
shuffle their
to, I'm
players,
sure they can make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
shuffle their players wherever they want to.
They cheat in every other way. Why not invent new ways of shuffling and cheating? I mean, innovate in your own field. So,
Yeah. Anyway.
so um, yeah, I think, I mean, we've talked about this before, but I think if you, what the US Open Cup does is it brings the entire soccer ecosystem, maybe ecosystems plural, together in a really nice way. And you discover teams and leagues and players that you maybe wouldn't encounter in your own area, which is great for the sport and great for the sense of like unity that should be, a soccer in the US. Um, and to your point, Mike, like it lets you compare apples to apples. And I think that's, like you said, something that MLS is just thoroughly not interested in because the argument is always like, we're the highest level of football or soccer in the US. Like that's just an established fact. And if you're never able to actually see how a USL championship team or USL one team compares to these MLS teams, that's just sort of it is what it is. And if you are someone who's interested in the sport and you have something like a Rhode Island FC or a Portland team near you, and you're like, this is basically the same thing as an MLS team, but it's actually local. It reflects my community in a direct way. It's like closer. I the coaches and players. Like, I'm gonna, this will be my team. Like, that's the last thing I think MLS wants is that sort of like sense of like having those local options and those options being as good as what MLS is offering.
It's
And
Budweiser. It's Budweiser. It's Anheuser-Busch versus the craft beer community, is what it is.
Pretty much.
Craft beer is catching up.
pretty much in for a league that wants to bill itself as the number one best and only league in the US, every single team except for Atlanta United, which beat up on USL One Charlotte Independence 3-0, every other MLS team in this past round of the US Open Cup either lost
Or
or
struggled.
won by one goal.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. So yeah, I mean, I think that can that's a good close to this discussion and this awesome evening that we've had tonight. You guys have any final thoughts? Anybody want to offer some final thoughts here before we sign off and
I've won. I've
say
won
see
this
you till
time.
next time? Okay, sir.
So we were nominated for 7 Daisies, and I can't believe we've gotten this far into the podcast and we haven't mentioned it. So, we were nominated for Best Local Podcast. And that's thanks to everybody that listens. So, keep voting. It can't hurt. So, yeah, we're really proud of that.
I think and I was going to mention that in the sign off, but that's awesome that you said that because the 7 Daisies award is I think something that um it's our kind of our local independent paper, right? And everybody knows around here knows what the 7 days is, and it offers so much to our community, and I love reading it, from the personal ads, which are always fun, to some of the reporting that they do that sometimes gets you some kind of behind the scenes stuff. I love it. So the 7 Daisies Award is pretty important to us. The four of us who started doing this kind of just on a whim and said let's just go for it and see where it brings us. And I think we've come a long way. We've got this awesome new partnership with Blazing Musket, and this 7 Daisies Award would be really would be awesome to win. I think we got some stiff competition from like Brave Little State. That's a tough one.
We are going up against VPR, the behemoth that is Vermont Public Radio. So
I know it's going to be tough, man.
VPR is the MLS of local broadcasting.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes.
Let's put it that way. Yeah, and we're just little old Vermont Green. But I really thank everybody who put in a vote for us, and I think the voting for the finals opens on May 28th, and I think goes through June 5th or something. So we'll be putting that out there on our social media accounts, on our personal social media accounts. You'll find us at greenmountainboys.com and on the blazingmusket.com. So I think that if you want to get out there and vote, that we would really appreciate it. And Will, thanks for reminding us of that. But yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about it. So it could be a major award. Yeah. So I guess that's all for us today, lads. What do we think? I'm gonna sign off.
Sign 'em off.
Sign them off. So again, we are United in Green. Find us on all your favorite podcast platforms, on youtube.com/United in Green Pod. And we'll be coming back to you next week with possibly a couple of local sportscasters. So that should be fun. And we'll do a full on preview of the season. So until then, love talking to you guys. And I want everybody to go out there, tread lightly, and be safe. And